So, if this is your first time that you've signed on to my workshops, then what I suggest you do is you switch to speaker view, which is up on the top right hand side on your computer, or if you're on an iPhone or an iPad, you can swipe it across, and so you can see a big picture of me, which is probably better for you than looking at all the little boxes. So that's the first thing. And we've done a little sound check, so we should be getting all the sound now. I know some of you are using headphones, so that's always a good idea as well. And we will be playing, so get your instruments ready and get ready to play. We're going to start playing very soon. So and so today is really a bit different to how I normally run my jazz workshops. I've been doing these every week, and I think this is the 10th week now.
Hello.
Sorry. And so I'm just going to mute everyone. And essentially, what's going to happen, the way it works is that no one can hear you. As they say in the movies, no one can hear you scream. So you're free to wail away and really go for it and play and improvise and just noodle away as much as you want while I'm talking, and you won't be disturbing anyone. So the idea is that you can hear me, and I'll be demonstrating some things for you to copy me with. We've got some backing tracks here, so when we play, we'll all be playing together, and you'll be hearing me and you'll be hearing the tracks, but obviously we won't be hearing you. Now, if you do have any questions, then the
Hello.
chat box is there. So we have the chat box, and you can type a question in there. Although sometimes I miss it because it does scroll off the bottom. So the other thing you can do is that you can unmute yourselves. So if you just press unmute at a sort of suitable time and just pipe up, don't be shy. Or you could give me a wave like that. That's usually good. But the problem is we're onto two screen loads now. So I'll try and keep coming backwards and forwards. So that's how it works. As I said, if you put it onto speaker view, that's the best thing. So tonight's different from my usual workshops. Each week I've been doing this. We take a jazz standard and we take it apart, and we investigate what's going on in the music, and we learn how to improvise. We learn how to play solos on those tunes, and through doing that we learn some new methods. What I'm doing tonight is twofold, really. One is, obviously, this is a free workshop, so it's a good opportunity for people who might be interested in buying my books to check out what's in the books. And so that's the main pitch for tonight. So I'm going to be going through the first 6 chapters of the book. There's 12 chapters. So if you've got my book already, then maybe you want to, let's hold them up. Okay, this has been a nice little screenshot. So if anyone's got a book, can they hold it up? There we go. There's a few out there. That's nice to see. Fantastic. Great. So if you haven't got the book, then obviously, this is the place. So we're going to go through some of the exercises in the book, and I'm going to talk about this 6 steps method that I use in the book to get you from scratch to actually improvising. And the method is based on a melodic approach. So it's about generating melodic ideas. This is the idea. And the other reason for this workshop, of course, is that maybe you're thinking about joining some of the workshops. So this is just a good chance to come and check it out. And likewise, we've just launched a brand new 3-day online jazz summer school. So the regular summer school we run every year in Cardiff couldn't happen this year. So we've just launched an online 3-day course. It's three whole days of jazz. And so again, it's going to be largely following this kind of webinar format, which is another reason for today to demonstrate to some of you that might be interested in the summer school. So, shall we get started? So the books at the moment, there's 4 editions, and there's a flute edition, a violin edition, and the saxophone covers saxophone and clarinet. There's B flat and E flat. There's 3 versions of everything in there. There's tenor, alto, and clarinet, and then there's trumpet too. And the way I've written these books is they work on different levels. So ideally, they work as a standalone thing. They come with a lot of audio backing tracks, which we're going to hear and work through. And the idea is that you can work through the book on your own with the backing tracks and go through this process of learning to get into improvising. But they also work together. So we've just released, just before lockdown, we released the education pack, which is a discount for the whole set. And in conjunction with that, I've also written some arrangements and some scores, which are available for free on my website. So you can download all those, and there's backing tracks there as well. So obviously, if you're a teacher at a school, this is going to be a really good resource, because you can use my charts, my arrangements there for the whole band. You can hand them out. You can use the backing tracks. Then of course the students can take the books away. Or if you're also one of our workshop adult learners, maybe you want to get together with some friends and have a little jam and things like that. So again, you can take those tracks, download those tracks, and you've got all the parts. So on the website are all the trombone parts, guitar, piano, bass, drum kit. There's the entire band all on and full scores as well. So what are the 6 steps? So the first step in the book is playing by ear. So the first thing we just start with one note, and we use this idea of call and response. So we're just going to jump straight into that. We're working in the key of F, okay, concert F. So for you transposers, trumpets and tenors, clarinets, you're going to be playing G, and your alto players, you're going to be on a D, okay? Now on the drums, Joseph, this might be a good opportunity for you to practice some phrasing, okay? So what you want to be doing is thinking about melodic phrasing on the drum. So you can play some time, and then when you hear the melody, try and play the melody on the drums. That's a really good exercise, okay? So what we're going to hear 2 bars, and then the idea is you copy it, okay? So first step here, one note improvising, call and response. Sorry, not improvising. We're not improvising yet. We're taking very small steps to improvising. So you're going to get a count in, and you're going to hear a phrase, and then you're going to just copy it back. Here we go. And then we'll get a few more. Okay, now you play. Okay, not too bad there. So there's a couple of things going on here. One is you're just getting your ears tuned in. You're warming up your instrument, and also what we're doing is we're getting used to playing 2-bar phrases, and that's what the whole thing's going to work on. This idea of 2-bar phrases, and instead of counting the beats and counting the bars, we really need to learn to feel the rhythmic. The length of those rhythmic phrases. So we're going to add a note now. We're going to add a minor third above it. Okay. So you're going to go up 3 semitones, okay, and now you've got 2 notes. So the key here is to try and identify by ear those 2 notes. And what will help is if you can retain that first note. That first note is our home note, it's our tonic, it's our key note. So if you focus on that one, when you hear the other note above it, it should stand out. So here we go. We're on to 2-note improvising now. Ready? Okay, not too not too bad. So somebody's asked in the chat box, is it being recorded, and can you record it? So I am recording this one, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to put this up on YouTube. So I think, assuming everything goes well, so don't worry, you can get a copy of this. I've had a few requests about that, and I know it's nice to have that, but there's some issues with copyright on the other sessions, but there's not with this, because all this music was written by me and is published by me. So, Joseph, what might be good for you to do with this, mate, is if you play time, keep the time going, okay, and then with the left hand, try and play the tom toms. So you can. It's a coordination thing there, and use the pitch of the drums. So you've got 3 pitches on the drums there, yeah. So you can try and play the tune on the tom toms while you're keeping the rhythm going on the ride cymbal. Just a suggestion, that might be something. Okay, we're going to add a note now, folks, and we're going to add a flat 7. So we're going to go down a tone from the original note, okay? So I'm talking, it's, you know, think of your intervals. So there's your root, there's your minor third above it, and there's your flat 7, okay? Down 2 semitones from the 1. Now, when you're doing this, what really helps is if you can really try to hold that 1 in your ear. Stay focused on the tonic key, yeah, and then just try to hear where the other notes are above it and below it, and that's your center point there, that root. Okay, so here we go, 3 notes, same thing, copy, call and response. Fantastic. So now in the rest of the book, it goes through and it adds another 2 notes, and so we build up to this minor pentatonic scale, which the whole book is based around. So throughout the whole of the book, you only use 5 notes. Now there were some handouts that came with this class, so when you sign up, and obviously this is step 1. We've been through this first sheet now, and you've got the 3 notes on the sheet there. Okay, so we're going to move on, and now we're going to start to look at. We've skipped a few pages. I'm not going to go through everything in the book. I'm just going to dip in and out. And this is something else actually that's worth mentioning. I've had some queries about this. The way the book's structured is that each chapter has a whole series of exercises, but you don't have to work through them all in a linear way. You can take 1 or 2 from that chapter and then jump to the next chapter and then do 1 or 2 and then move through the book like that, which is what we're basically doing today. So now we've got our minor pentatonic scale, our 5 notes, and what we're going to do is we're going to play some scale patterns. So if you've not done much of that, then this is a really good first step. So a lot of times when we practice scales, we practice from root to root, up and back down again. And that's a real problem when you come to improvising, because you've ingrained this stepwise motion and you've got this what we call root bias. So using scale patterns are a great way of breaking up the sequence of the notes, so you're not all playing them in the same order. Now this is interesting when we start using pentatonics, because a pentatonic scale, minor pentatonic scale, has some a mixture of stepwise and leaps and steps already built into it. And so this is one of the reasons why pentatonics are such great scales for improvising and building melodies. If you take something like a major scale and you improvise with that, you end up with a lot of stepwise motion, which means you tend to move from one note to the next note, and it can mean that your melodic phrases are very flat. The other option is to play chord tones, which we've done a lot of as well. But when you're doing that, you're playing all leaps. So if you only use arpeggios, you're getting a lot of leaps. So one of the features of the pentatonic scale is that you get a nice balance of leaps and steps built into the DNA of the scale. So you're automatically going to get some interesting shapes. Now, when you start playing scale patterns with that, what you're going to then get is irregular intervals. Okay, so you've got to watch out for these scale patterns now. It's not quite as simple as when you're doing just a major scale. So we're on to step 2 now. You should all have this sheet. We've got concert, B flat, E flat, and bass clef on the parts there. So we're just going to go through. This is just the first one in the book. There's actually 12 scale patterns in the book, and every exercise, every bit of notation in the whole book has an audio backing track to play along with, and all of these have 5 tempos on them as well. So there's loads of stuff to work through. We're going to just go on the first tempo here, and we're going to play 60 beats per minute. And so we're going to look at this step 2 minor pentatonic scales. And notice underneath the notes, I've also written the numbers in. So the numbers are really important. Now, what I do find with these workshops is some people are very good at reading notation and reading music, especially if they come from a more classical background. So what happens is they tend to just read the part, but what they're not doing is thinking about the actual pattern on sequence of the notes. So the numbers underneath are meant to help you there. Try to use the numbers as much as you can. Thinking in numbers is a really helpful thing for learning, because it means you're thinking harmonically as well, and it's going to help you transpose later when you transpose your ideas. So here we go. Three and 4 and. Three and 4 and. Okay, not too bad. And now we're going to go up to the next tempo. Three, 4. Okay, not too bad. And then one more, we'll go up to 120 now. Okay, and it goes 150, 180 in the book. So the idea is that you're working on each one of these scale patterns here, and starting to disrupt the flow of those notes. Any questions about that? Is anyone on the handout for pentatonic bass clef is a copy of the E flat? Or is there a problem there? Oh, so oh, sorry, yeah, there's a mistake. The bass clef's not in bass clef. That's an advanced test for you bass players. All right, so well spotted for those of you that got that. So in the book, it's actually no, it's not. There isn't bass clef version of the book. So that's the basic idea. So we work through lots of different scale patterns, going up, going down, playing the notes in different order, and what we're doing is basically disrupting that bias that you've developed of playing scales up and down all in the same sequence. Okay, so now the next step in the book, what we're going to do is we learn some rhythmic phrasing. So step 3 is rhythmic phrasing, and what I've done is I've written some stock rhythms. Now I think this is really important for learning jazz, and this is something that a lot of people that are new to playing jazz really struggle with, because they tend to spend a lot of time on their chords and their scales, and they don't really learn the rhythmic language of jazz properly. And really the best way to do that is through listening to lots of jazz records. So if you don't have a lot of experience of listening to lots of jazz, and then you try to sort of get into this situation of playing and you're thinking of scales and things like that, this is sometimes where it can fall down. So what I've done is I've written some stock rhythmic phrases, and there's 8 swing with swing quavers, and there's 8 with straight quavers and semiquavers. And it's a bit like learning when you learn a language. you learn stock phrases. You know, you go and the first thing you learn is how to order a beer, right? That's the first thing I learn when I go abroad. And you learn it as a sentence. And so what we're trying to do here is we're trying to think of these rhythms, these 2-bar rhythmic phrases. You're trying to think of that and hear that whole 2 bars in your head as one thing. And I think that's really important. So again, you know, if you're looking at that notation and you're trying to do the maths, you know, of adding it up and counting, like that's really not a good place to be when it comes to improvising and playing jazz. What you really need to do is really hear the phrase in your head, the whole thing as one complete unit. So again, this is where the audio tracks are massively helpful. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're just going to clap. Okay, so we're on to step 3 now, page 3. So this is, as I say in the book, there's a whole chapter on these, and we've got audio examples for everything. So what we're going to, is that a question? Oh, sorry. So here we go, we've got a count in, and then we're just going to clap this round a few times. And as you do it, try to really hear the whole thing as one complete unit. Okay, got it? Now you should be able to hear that in your head as a phrase, yeah? So the idea is that now you're thinking of that as a complete phrase. And of course what we're going to do is the next thing we do, this is what I call the painting by numbers. So what we're going to do next is we're going to apply that rhythm to that scale pattern. So this, again, you know, we're taking very small steps here where no one's improvising anything yet, but what we are doing is we're sort of drilling in and embedding some ideas of melodic phrases. We're starting to generate melody now. Okay, it's not going to win a Grammy, right? But it's an exercise. We're just doing some press ups here. So, and as if by magic, it's just the right number of notes there. What a coincidence! How about that? Eh? So, so what you'll find is that's every scale pattern in the book fits every rhythmic phrase in the book. And if you cross-cast and combine all of them, there's something like 2,300 combinations, which I don't suggest you do all in one go at all. Okay, it's just a method. Okay, but what I do suggest you do is that you do a few of them to just get this idea of playing 2-bar phrases. So here we go. Now we're going to play step 4. We're going to apply the rhythmic phrasing to the scale pattern. Here we go. And again, we've got audio tracks for everything. Okay, pretty simple, right? Whoa, stop it. So, okay, so we've really got to the end of this point now. At this point, when you've done a lot of this work, you've started to generate lots and lots of these rhythmic phrases. And again, Joseph, these work great around the drums, mate. So find it melodic phrases around the kit and trying to find shapes and patterns that you can play using the pitch of the toms and the drums. So what we're doing now is we take that final step of actually improvising. And the idea is that after doing lots of this work, lots of this preliminary, laying these foundations, these preliminary exercises, and when you've done lots of these, you should start to find that it's easy to sort of make up little phrases that are similar to this using the same 5 notes. And that's the idea now, okay? So this is where I'm skipping through quite a lot of stuff in the book here, but I'm just showing you the process. So now we get to this concept of question and answer phrasing. But I tell you what, let's have a little go, okay? Before we get to the next step, because we're doing all right for time. So what I've got is I've just got a nice little backing track here, and we're just going to practice. I want you to try and have a little noodle now with that. So maybe what you can do is try some different rhythms with that. Yeah. Yeah, see what I'm doing? I'm using the same scale pattern, but I'm using different rhythm. Okay, and let's try that with a little bit of a backing track. I'll do one and then I'll leave it so that you can hear what you're doing. And what I want you to do is play for 2 bars and rest for 2 bars. Play 2 bars, rest for 2 bars. We're trying to really embed this feeling and sense of and pacing of 2-bar phrases. So, if I'm correct, we should. Okay, 2 bars. One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, get the idea? 1, 2, 3, and rest, 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 and play, 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 and rest. 4, 2, 2, 3, and play. 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, and rest, and play, and rest, and play. Okay, yeah. So just, again, it's not about trying to come up with anything amazing. We're just developing these skills and this process, and with practice, over time, a few weeks of working through these books with these exercises, a little bit every day, we're trying to develop a certain sort of fluency here and getting away from that fear of improvising. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try and refine these phrases a little bit. So we've fairly much established this concept of this 2-bar phrase. We're using these minor pentatonics, and we've got some nice rhythmic language in here now. So what we're going to move on to is question and answer phrasing and what I call the musical sentence. Okay, so there's a little concept that I've found that works quite well here that we've used a lot in workshops. It's not a hard and fast rule, but it's certainly something that helps you get a sense of a structure to your melodic phrases, and that is question and answer phrasing. This is something used a lot in music, in composition, and in melodies all the time. So if you think about when you ask a question and you're speaking, your voice usually goes up at the end, and what that does is it's indicating you've not finished what you're saying yet, and it makes the person listen. So in musical terms, we refer to that as unresolved. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to now try and create and improvise a 2-bar phrase which we're going to use as a question. And the only caveat, the only rule I'm going to give you is that you mustn't land on the tonic. Okay, so you're going to avoid the tonic as your last note. Okay, so this is the little game we're going to play with this. So you can play whatever you like, okay, but you're just not going to land on the 1. And what that's going to do is it's going to sound unresolved. That's the purpose of this exercise. Okay. So in the book we've got some examples. So I'll just give you a demonstration. Now we're on to step 5 here. So you're onto this next sheet, and what you'll see on this sheet is that you've got some bars with the slash marks in, and that's where you play. And then obviously where the rests are, you don't play. Okay. So we're just going to loop around the first one. And here's a little demonstration in the book. And then you would rest, because you're leaving space there for where the answer's going to go later. So again, just not ending on the 1. You can play wherever you like. Yeah, get the idea? Okay, so let's have a little go. So you get a little count in now. You get 4, and then you come straight in. Play on the slash marks, but don't play on the rests. Here we go. And rest. So the answer is here. Now question. Answer, rest, rest, rest. Now you play a question. Rest. And question. And rest. Okay, get the idea? Yeah. So we'll push on, And obviously the next thing now is we're going to work on the answer phrase, and what you are going to do now is you're going to land on the one. Okay, so what that's going to do is that's going to give a resolution to your melodic phrase. So we're going to land on the one, and that's going to give a sense of finality, and it's going to give a closure to your melodic phrase, your melodic statement. Okay, so again we're only going to do answers, and we're just going to take a moment. I've got a little. Yeah, we've got a little demonstration here in the book. So here we get the... So actually there should have been 2 bars, but you get the idea, right? So answer. So it's always coming back to that tonic. That's basically it. So that last note. Yeah, get the idea? So let's try it now with the backing track. So we're going to use the second line down. So you're going to start with 2 bars rest, which is where the question will go, and now you're going to improvise your answers. So you're going to play on those slash marks, and the only caveat here is you're going to land on a 1. Again, you know, this isn't a hard and fast rule. You don't have to do this. It's just a nice little device, and what we're doing is we're sort of programming in habits, so that when you become, when you're improvising, you're in the heat of the moment. These are the sort of things that can guide you when you're improvising. So here we go. So we're going to try the same thing now. We're going to just do our 6. What do I see? Here we go. So we're going to start with rests. Oh no, that's not it. Where's it? What do I want? B, 6B. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so you start with the rests. Now you're going to play your answer. Answer. And now rest. Okay, I'll show you one. And yeah, rest. And answer. And rest. And answer. Rest and answer, and rest and answer, rest and answer, and rest and answer. Okay, very good. Okay, so no prizes for guessing what's going to come next. We're going to stick them together. So what we're going to do is we're going to improvise 4 bars now. Okay, and what I suggest you do for this exercise is actually rest 4 bars and then improvise 4 bars, because otherwise it can get quite hard if it's just this continuous stream of ideas that you're coming up with. So maybe play 4 and rest 4. And again, what we're really trying to do is embed this feeling of structure, yeah, and just feeling when those 2 bars are, when those 4 bars are, and that's going to really help us when we're improvising on the tunes, so that we don't get lost. So we're trying to get away from counting bars. We should just be able to really feel it, and this sort of melodic structure is going to help us with that. So question, answer. Yep. All right, here we go. Get the idea? Rest. Okay, so now here we go, and question. Question and answer. Maybe keep going if you want. Question or rest and answer. Just make sure your question and answers are in the right place. And question or rest and answer. And question and answer. And question and answer. And Again, we're not we're not trying to win any Grammys here, right? We're just building in some habits, developing some ideas. Now, some of you might have found this problem. Some of you, I know some of you have done this before. So now the next thing I want you to think about, building on that, we're always building on what we've done, is to develop this idea of what I'm calling the musical sentence now. Okay, so we're going to look at this whole thing as a 4-bar phrase. And so what we're essentially doing is zooming out a little bit, which is a great place to be when you're improvising. So when you're improvising and playing music, you don't want to be like this, you know, looking at every chord. You need to have a sense of the overall structure, but your sights need to be kind of on that midway point, that mid distance. So what you're really doing is you're batch processing chord sequences within tunes as you play, and you're tending to think in like 2, 3, 4 bars at a time. And that's where you want to be when you're improvising, okay? So when we're doing this, what we're doing is we're developing these habits and ingraining this sense of that kind of where are our scopes, you know, where are we thinking in the music. So this musical sense is we're thinking in 4-bar chunks. Now, what you need to do is you need your question and your answer to sound like they belong together, okay? And what you want to avoid, it says in the book, is what colour is the sky? There were 11 of us. Okay, so like that's a question and that's an answer, right? But they don't go together. They don't make any sense, right? So this is a problem with music when we get this, right? So what we need is we need our musical question and our musical answer to fit together and to make sense. And this is the idea of the musical sentence, right? The whole thing fits, and all great melodies do this. Now, what's the trick, right? What's the magic little thing? And the answer is rhythm. Okay, the answer is the rhythm. So all you got to do is use the same or similar rhythm for your question and your answer. Okay. Another little trick you can do, which works very well, is to start with the same idea. So maybe your question starts with a few notes and then goes somewhere, and then the answer starts with the same thing, but then resolves to the tonic. Okay. So again, these are not hard and fast rules, but these are really good, nice, clear guidelines. And again, with practice, and you start to bed that in. So what I've done here is I've come up step 6. We've now got our musical sentence. Okay, so this is our musical sentence. And what we've got is a nice phrase there. Now, something else that I've done here is I've played a few pickup notes. And what this will do, so essentially I'm starting the phrase a little ahead of the bar line, and I'm ending it a little bit ahead of the last bar line. And so it's just shifted the whole thing in the meter, and it just gives it a little blurring to the edges. And that's another nice device that comes up a lot in jazz. Yeah, otherwise it can be very much like, you know, and we want to try to sort of get off those beat ones a little bit. So you'll hear there's a little pickup to the phrase. So again, we've got audio examples of every single bit of notation in the book. So if you're not so good at reading, then you can use the audio. So let's just have a little listen. Okay, you get the idea? Again, you know, it's not going to set the world alight, but it's a nice phrase. It works. It's balanced. Okay, so we're using this minor pentatonics. We've got some leaps and some steps in there. We've got a nice, well balanced phrase that resolves. Okay, and the question doesn't land on the 1, and the answer lands on the 1. Okay, so these are the sort of phrases that you want to try and be using. So what I would suggest we do is we go back a step very quickly, because the time's marching on, and we'll do that last exercise once more. But all I want you to do now is I want you to think a little bit more about trying to tie those phrases together so that the question and the answer kind of belong together a bit more. And really it's about not being afraid to repeat yourself. Okay, so you don't have to come up with a whole brand new idea every single thing you play every 2 bars. Okay, it's about like extending one idea into a 4-bar phrase, yeah, instead of it just being 2 bars now. All right, so here we go. Let's have another little go around that, and we'll just do a few bars, and then we'll start to look at this tune. Okay, so we're getting through it. Okay, so here we go now with the question and question, answer. Question, answer. Okay, so maybe I'll play a little one. Okay, so I used the same idea, the same rhythm, and just resolved it. Question, answer. Question, answer. Okay, fantastic. I think this is a great point to just have a little breather. We've just got 15 minutes, but if anyone's got any questions, I'll try and find some answers. So, how are we doing? Has anybody got anything they need to ask? Is it all kind of fine? Barry, is that you? Put your hand up.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Yeah.
I was just thinking. If you take the tune Fever,
Wow,
it does exactly what you say.
you'll be amazed how many tunes do exactly that. Yeah, this is a really, really common musical device. Okay, and it's a compositional device as well. And of course, like, you know, when you're getting into improvising, improvisation is and composition are kind of the same thing, right? But the difference with composition is you've got time, you've got the benefit of hindsight to go back and edit your ideas. When you're improvising, it's real, it's in the moment, and when you play it, it's gone, right? You can't go back and change it, but you can with compositions. So, which links us very nicely to the next bit of the book. Okay, so thank you for that. So we're going to look at composition now. So in the book, so that's the first 6 chapters. Chapter 7, it actually takes you through a lot of different styles. So there's bossa nova in there, there's a blues, there's a minor blues, there's a pop sort of funky thing, and explains a little bit about the theory and the harmony of how the chords and the notes work. And there's some different sort of grooves to work on, because of course this all works with straight 8s as well. Then what we get into chapter 9, we get into chapter 8. So chapter 8 is all articulation. So there's a whole chapter on how to get different sounds on your instruments, you know, tonguing, slurs, you know, accents, staccato markings, and all that sort of stuff, and how that can really affect the phrasing of the music. Okay, and that whole thing of jazz language as well, like tonguing the upbeats and emphasizing the upbeats to help the music to swing. So there's a whole chapter on that. Chapter 9, we get into some compositions, and what I've done is I've written 4 tunes which are really just vehicles for improvising, but also to demonstrate this whole concept. So I've got 4 tunes in different styles. There's this what we call a riff blues, which we're going to do today, and there's a Latin mambo. There's a 12/8 rhythm and blues thing, and then there's this sort of funky 14-bar thing as well. And it's just trying to show you that you know all you need to know now to write a tune, so you can compose your own tune using exactly the same process that you've just done. Okay, so essentially, if you can create a 4-bar musical sentence, then you can compose a tune. And we're going to look at this first one called Sunny Honeymoon. And this is a pastiche. So a pastiche is where you take an existing tune and you write something kind of in the style of. And this is Sunny Moon for Two. I don't know if you know that Sonny Rollins tune. And I was listening to that, and he uses a minor pentatonic in that tune, and it basically just goes down the scale. And it had a similar sort of shape to it, like this. So I had this thing rattling around. So I've composed this tune using the exact same process, except there's one slight there's one slight thing here. I do actually resolve on the tonic of the question. Okay, so just to show you that it can be done. It just kind of sounded right to me, and when I knocked it about. And then what you do is you basically play the same thing 3 times over a 12-bar blues, and that's what we call a riff blues. So if you can come up with this one question answer phrase, you can write a riff blues. That's all there is to it. Okay, and these minor pentatonics work absolutely great for that. Okay, so what we've got is this tune here, So we'll have a little go through it, and what I thought we'd do is have a go at playing the head. The head is twice. It's kind of standard protocol to play the head twice on a blues, and then we're going to go through the soloing. Now, when you get to the solo, what I really would like you to do is not completely forget the last 50 minutes of your life and just and just sort of wail away, you know, which is very tempting to do, and a lot of people tend to do in the workshops. So don't try to, you know, you're not on the stage, we're not doing the gig. Don't try to play your best solo ever, right? That's really the best advice I can give you, is just still treat it like an exercise, right? We're still in the gym, we've done the press ups, we're just sort of having a bit of a kickabout now, right? But we're not really playing the match. So what I suggest you do is just try to apply those basic things that we've done and just slot it into this solo sequence just to see how that fits and how that works. When you do a blues, you've got a 12-bar sequence, okay, but it's never 6 plus 6, you know, or 9 plus 3, right? It's always 4 plus 4 plus 4, okay, and there's a reason for that. It's because the way the lyrics work and the whole structure of a blues is based around 3 lines, okay? So we've just learned a musical sentence, and we're now thinking in 4-bar phrases. Question and answer, that's 4 bars, right? So all you got to do is do that 3 times, and you've played a whole chorus, okay? And you can't get lost. If you're thinking in this way, you can't get lost. You don't need to worry about counting bars, and you don't really even need to worry about any of them chords, because everything you play will fit, okay? It will all fit with this minor pentatonic scale, okay? All right. So we'll have a little blow through this, and then we'll just got time for questions at the end. So 2 times at the top. I think it's 2 times on the solo. I might be wrong. You'll find out. It will come back in. It may be 3. It's 2. It's definitely 2 solos, and then 2 heads at the end. I also wrote some harmony parts. Okay, so if you downloaded the harmony part, you're welcome to have a go at that as well. And generally speaking, the harmony comes in on the 2nd time around, which is, now this tune is one of my free charts that's on my website. So there's a full score of this written out for full band, full arrangements, rhythm section, everything. So if there's anyone that's teaching and wants to use these tunes, you can download those and just use them in the class. Great. Any last requests? We're there. We're ready. Okay, we're cool. So we get a little count in. It goes a bit quicker, this. Okay, all right. Sunny honeymoon. Here we go. And again, repeat. And again. Okay, so now 2nd head with the harmony. You hear the harmony? Okay, now to the solo. So question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. Okay, do the whole thing again and again. Question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. I think we got another one. Question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. I think we might have a head. Here we go. And again. And a last head. go last time. That's it. Fantastic. Well done. So there you have the 6 steps. There's, as I said, there's another three tunes in the book, and then the final chapter, I think, it talks about transposing and playing in other keys. And so there's some exercises there which take what you've just done and put it into another key as well. So has anyone got any questions about any of that, or any comments, or any thoughts, or any feedback? So
yeah, I'd just like to say, Buster, as you know, I've been using this book for a little while, and I'm here tonight partly to support you, because I think it's a really good idea, but also just to say how useful this is, and I wish to God I'd had it 10 years ago.
Oh. Well, thank you, Barry. And if anybody would like to really help me out, the best thing you can do for me, actually, if there is something you can do, and that's to leave a review on Amazon, because like those, you wouldn't believe how important that is. Since I've been getting into this publishing, I've realized all the algorithms on Amazon all fire off those reviews. So it affects how often the book's shown on the also boughts underneath. You know, when you see a book, oh, so-and-so bought this, and they also bought that, would you like this? And it really helps with that. Suzanne, did you have a question? Somebody?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it was really useful, because I tried to learn to improvise and I always get lost. And
Yes.
those 4 bars and the question answer really helps to try to keep on track.
Exactly, and this is the problem, I think. One of the things I've often found, and I think there is a problem with a lot of the jazz education stuff that's out there. I mean, the Aebersold stuff is fantastic, but there's a lot of information to process. So in the Aebersold model, where they use a whole scale for every chord, so you know you're getting like a scale for every bar, and sometimes 2 in a bar. What I found in my experience of teaching, and I've been doing this a little while now, is when you're starting out, there's just too much information to process, right? And you get information overload, and then what happens is, and you basically can't improvise if you're trying to think of what's the third of that scale and counting the bars, and you know you're doing all what I call all the maths in your head, right? Like that, you can't be in that headspace, okay? You're not going to be creating melodies, and so you need to find methods like this which sort of simplify that, and you know, the less you've got to think about, the more you can focus on just creating and that. But what this does give you is it gives you some structure. And I think that you know, what are you thinking of when you do something? I think that's really important. Like that really changes it. That's the difference between something being hard or easy, right? It's like you could do the same thing but have something different in your head, and it can change it entirely, right? So and also, you know, this is how music works. You know, Parker talked about practice, then forget all that and play. But what he's talking about is automation, okay? And I think we sometimes forget how much we need to automate when we play jazz before we can play it. You see what I mean? But you can't be thinking of all that stuff when you're doing it. So I think if you can find some methods like this to help you avoid that information overload, I think that's what I've tried to do. And I've found that these certain things that I found worked in the workshops that I've done. That's why I put it in the book. That's why I made this book. You know, it's based on little things that I developed and found that worked very well in all the. I mean, I probably did 200 workshops before I wrote this book. So like, this very tried and tested stuff. So somebody else was waving there. Oh, Megan, hello, Megan. You need to unmute yourself, Megan. We can't hear you. Sorry. Hello.
So a lot of stuff in the chat about where do you get the inspiration for the notes?
Me or you?
No, everybody. One.
Well, I think the again, it goes back to, you know, there's no shortcuts, right? So like, but it's like, what do you work on? Practice time's limited. So I think those early exercises, that thing of drilling through that, you know, just really get, I can't overstate the amount of work that takes, you know, but you don't have to do it all at once. That's the point, you know, and the way this book works is it's meant to be, you're meant to sort of hop through the things. The idea is not to spend, you know, 6 months working on every combination in chapter 2 before you do chapter 3. And this is why I was doing the workshop, to show you how you can take one example there and then take it through the process. What I'm trying to give you is a process, and I think that's the thing. But yeah, absolutely. The idea is that the bottom line to all this is that you really want to be aiming to play what you hear and hear what you play. And I talk about this a lot, right? And what we're trying to avoid is that practice of just wiggling the fingers and seeing what comes out the end, right? And this is the sort of thing that's going to help with that, I think. But the inspiration comes from just obviously listening to lots of jazz and hearing phrases in your head that and then being able to, get that to come out of your instrument or whatever it is, often say, the trombone or the piano, or the drums. Yeah, sorry. And the idea is that you can develop this oneness with the music and with your instrument. And I think these sort of exercises will really help with that. They really help you to be able to firstly hear with clarity your ideas and then express them on the instrument through that practice. Sorry, is that a short question, long answer? That's what I tend to do. Anyone else? I've got another page here. Is anybody on the other page? Wait a minute. Of course, you don't know what page.
Hello, Buster. Buster.
Where's that? Tony. Hello, Tony. Hi.
Oh, similar question as
you look like you look like you're in a bunker on the ninth hole.
Just about. Your latest downloads from Mac the Knife and Send Your Blues. Half of them I can't download again.
Not again.
Yeah.
The new ones. Has anybody having trouble with next week's downloads?
Oh, I haven't done that yet.
I downloaded them all right successfully.
Okay, Tony. Okay, drop me an email, Tony. I'll send them.
Yeah,
I'll send
you an email.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. So, folks, so just just to wind up now. Basically, the books they're all available on Amazon. They're in print and they're on Kindle. You can download them immediately. As I said, if you go to my website, I've got the teacher pack which we're bringing out. The idea is that they can be used in schools, and maybe the institutions want to buy some sets of the books. There's a discount on there. I think there's it's about an 18% discount if you buy the set. And then of course what's available for everybody now are all the charts and all the arrangements, and there's full scores, and I've formatted them for American and UK paper sizes because I'm that obsessive and that much of a maniac that when I do it, I want it all to look right as well. So if you're in the US, you can download the US paper size, and the idea is it's all printed out. I've been in a lot of situations in schools where they'll have a school jazz band, and very often what they're doing is really just rehearsing charts because there isn't time to actually develop any improvising. And so what tends to happen is there'll be one kid that just does all the solos because they can solo and no one else can, and so they end up doing all the solos, and I've seen it a lot, and so what I really wanted to try and do is do something that would help the teachers, help people. Obviously, a standalone thing where you can work on your soloing and develop it, and each book is a standalone thing, but as a set it could be something that's quite useful in schools and institutions, and then of course the students can take the books home and work through the soloing on their own or with their teacher, and then come back and play the charts, and then of course the goal is that everyone can improvise. Every student can improvise on those arrangements because they can take them home. They've got all the backing tracks with the books, and then as I say, you've got the downloads as well. And then if you want to get together with some friends and play these tunes, you could if you've got like a flute and a trombone and a set of bongos. I've actually done a gig like that. Did a Christmas Eve gig, bongos, flute and trombone. There you go. So and what you can do, you see, then of course you can use the tracks, so you can play along with the tracks, and you've got the charts for whatever combination you've got. One last little plug is the summer school. So as I said earlier, we've launched our 3-day online jazz course. It's at the original UK jazzsummerschool.com. If you go to my website, there's a link directly there. We're up and running now. We've got the whole. It's an absolutely fantastic 3 days we've put together. we've got a really good mixture of activities. There's master classes, there's improvisation workshops, there's like listening things where you can don't have to look at the screen, you know, and then there's tutor performances. It's over 3 days, and it's as full or as, you know, busy or as light as you want it to be. And it's only £120. We've really packed a lot in. There's 27 masterclasses, 15 workshops, and what they'll all be recorded. I've gone for broke with Zoom, so we've got the full business package on Zoom, which the big multinationals use. And what it means is when you sign up, we have our own Zoom account. So everybody inside the account can just hop in and out of all the classes without having to register and things like that. And it also means you'll be able to see the videos, you'll be able to watch the videos of all the masterclasses and workshops. So because there's loads of classes running concurrently, simultaneously. And so you can pick which ones to go to, but then you can watch all the other ones afterwards as well. So we're really pleased, we're very excited about it. It's in August, 4th to the 6th of August. And we've got like literally the best jazz educators in the country. We've got 15 tutors on there. So check them out. They're all up on there. And my final plug is that I'll be running these workshops now every week to the end of the month. What we normally do is we take a jazz standard. Again, you'll get all the downloads in advance as soon as you sign up. I do transcriptions off the record. So we always work on a record. We look at some licks, and through doing so, we look at different aspects of how to improvise based on what the ingredients of the tune are. And this is the thing again. So like when you learn to improvise and play a solo on that tune, it sounds like it belongs to that tune if you're using the ingredients of that tune rather than a generic solo, you know, which fits on anything. So so do check that out. I'm running through to the end of July, and then I'm having August off because I'm exhausted. I haven't stopped. So once the summer school's over, I'll be taking a break. Then I'll be back in September, and who knows what I'll be doing then. But I'll be definitely doing some more of these. So thanks very much. There will be a recording of this. Thank you. Bye, Joseph. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to get in touch with me, anyone, you can drop me an email. I'm very easy to get hold of. It's very nice to hear from you. Sorry, Joseph. So did you want to say something?
Solos are a really important thing in jazz. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes, improvising and playing a solo, and I know you've signed up for the course, so you're going to get some lessons with Dave Hassel, which is going to be amazing, and I'll be there as well. So so yeah, I mean, jazz is a big thing. It's a lifetime's work, and there's many different ways of doing it. There's not just one way of doing it. It's been around 100 years, and it's evolved over that time. And every new generation that comes along has got a different approach to the music, and I think that's the beauty of it. So when we study jazz, what I think is, for me personally, I think this is why the recordings are important, because when you look at a real book, what you're getting is a generic lead sheet, okay? But when you look at a recording, what you're getting is a time and a place, okay? So like the concepts that they used on that recording could be different to here, you know. So there's a recording of St. Louis Blues or St. James Infirmary. It's one of them. It's got a saint in it, and it's like Louis Armstrong recorded it in the 30s, and then Freddie Hubbard recorded it in 1962 or something. Of course, it's the same tune, right? But they're playing completely different things, totally different things, because they're approaching the music from a different concept, totally different concept. And this is what happened with jazz, is as it's evolved. Okay, so studying recordings are really important because it puts you in a time and a place. So when you play St. Louis Blues, are you doing Louis' version? Are you doing Freddie Hubbard version? Like, they're completely different pieces of music. So this is why recordings are very important. Anyway, I could waffle on forever, and I know I've gone over. So thank you very much. Thank you for everyone that's supporting me regularly. I really appreciate it. And it's lovely to see some new faces on here. I do hope that was useful and interesting, and I hope to see you again. And as I said, drop us a line, you know, anytime. I'm happy to answer any questions about the summer school, about the workshops, about the books. Okay, take care of yourself. Have a good evening.
Buster.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Okay, cheers.
Thank you.
Stay safe.